Hi, my name is Ari, and I'm so happy you have chosen to watch an episode of our podcast, the Growth, Grace, and Gratitude podcast. I was inspired to start podcasting as a kind of shift that I had from the dance world into journalism. I grew up dancing ballet, and I have performed with the New York City Ballet, Miami City Ballet, at Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, and in Madison Square Garden. So my overarching experience in dance has really inspired me to open up conversation that affects and influence our mental health. We have experts from every field to just talk about things and to find some level of growth, grace, and gratitude within each step of our evolution. I also want to mention that we have spiritual courses available for anybody that wants guidance on their spiritual journey. And if that includes coaching, we have a lot of guidebooks about inner child healing and mental health support and relationship guidance. And for students, we have great tutoring for writers who want to build on their journalistic skills or who want to publish their first novel, who want to work on their writing in general. We have courses in dance, ballet, yoga, and Pilates. So whether you are advanced or brand new, our classes are held on Zoom, and we have options for personal classes or group classes. And for writers, there's also an option of the typewriter. So if you have a typewriter that needs repair, we can repair that for you. And if you need a new typewriter, you can purchase a beautiful typewriter and start the writing process at your own pace. If you would like to have me on your podcast or would like to be a guest on my podcast, or if you want us to answer your questions in an upcoming episode, please send us an email at growthandgracemindset@gmail.com. If you like our shows and they resonate with you, please consider giving our show a rating of 5 stars. Give us a comment, follow, and just enjoy the episodes. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your journey with us. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to the Growth, Grace, and Gratitude podcast. We talk about all things mental health, wellness, positive psychology, inner child healing, spirituality, and so much more. And today we will talk about writing, publishing, and the journey to becoming an author, which is such a great accomplishment, with our special guest, Samantha Christopher. And she's a mother to 3 boys and lives in Southern Oregon. And when she's not wrangling her wild children or 2 dogs, you can usually find her hiding in her bedroom with a bag of Sour Patch Kids and a good book, or typing away at her next story. She also loves the outdoors, watching movies, and traveling. With over 200 pre-orders, her debut novel, The Spark Within, is officially out as the first in an upcoming trilogy. Wow, it's so exciting. So, the podcast.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And you already have so many pre-orders. That's amazing. What inspired you to write this book? And if you can give a little like tidbit of like what's it about, so people can like learn from.
Okay, so about 3 years ago, I woke up from a dream that had all of my main characters in it. So, yeah, so it was from a dream that I got the idea, and I wrote that scene that I dreamt right away. I didn't have a lot of experience in writing a book before then, but there was this part of me that like needed to get this story out. And so I started writing. But also the main character is inspired by myself. We share a lot of the same attributes. I grew up as kind of the obedient daughter that made all the right choices, and my older siblings were the complete opposite, to say the least. So I always had like a lot of pressure on me to always do the right things. And so my main character Maya, is like that, and she's very obedient and also kind of to a fault though. She has to push past this like blind obedience of hers and to think for herself in a society that is very strict. So she lives in the Oregon wilderness. They're in this isolated community, and her people can control the four elements of nature, and they're at war with the commoners, people that don't have abilities. And so in this facility, they do arranged marriages. So she gets matched to two men who are genetically perfect for her, and she's supposed to choose one, and they're supposed to have offspring that are stronger, like in their abilities, so they can ultimately win the war. And so that's kind of what this is about. It's about Maya and her journey and these love interests of hers.
Wow, that's quite a fantastic story. I love that, and I love how you mentioned you got it in a dream. That's so unique. I've
Mm-hmm.
a lot of had so many clients because I do a lot of like inner child healing work when people kind of go through trauma healing or they want to
Mm-hmm.
kind of awaken parts of their inner child self. And so many times they've had dreams where I actually did a few dream interpretations where like their dreams are actually messages. So it's so interesting you mentioned that. Like you had a dream and you got all these like unique storylines and it kind of inspired you. So I think it's also a great thing for people who are like empaths or who are spiritual in their journeys, kind of like tuning into their dream space because maybe you have your next book there. That's so amazing.
Yeah, I get really vivid dreams and about like just like random characters, not like real life people, just these like stories. It's crazy
Wow.
if I remember them.
Right? You have to like write them down as soon as you wake up, or otherwise you'll probably forget them, right? That's amazing. Do you ever deal with like writer's block? Because I know so many writers are obviously trying to have like an order or like a routine. Or some people actually like they can write like during the day if they'll find like one time block for like an hour or two, they'll be able to just write. Like how was your process? Did you have a specific like routine or style, like time period?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm a stay-at-home mom to three boys, and so finding time to write has been hard,
I can
especially
imagine. So hard.
when I started the book, my youngest was a baby, and so he was still very needy, and so I wrote a lot during like nap time and after they were in bed. And so I'm like mom during the day and writer at night for a long time. And now actually they're all at school, so I have way more time now. But I definitely had writer's block, especially like well, before I get into that, I would like get these inspiration ideas to write, but I'm like with my boys at the time, and so I couldn't like write. And so that was had been a struggle, like just like having to wait, like keep those ideas, write something down on my phone, and then being able to on it when I have the time. Um, and so I do believe that like anyone could write. Like if I was able to as a mom of three boys, finding those windows. Um, so writer's block. I definitely have writer's block. I'm a pantser when it comes to writing. That means I don't go into it with an outline. I kind of just write and write and write and write. And so when I hit a spot that I didn't really know what comes next, or I was having a hard time with the words or the dialogue, I would just skip it. I just skip it and I go to a part that I do want to write about, or I knew like, oh, I wanted this scene to happen. And so I'd like write my first draft and there'd be lots of holes that I would have to figure out and like connect all the dots. But also I've had times where I'm just like blocked and I have no ideas, don't know what to do. And in those times, just getting out of my head. So like picking up a new book to read, watching a movie, getting outside can really bring inspiration. So just kind of like stop writing and like do something else until that inspiration hits again.
Yeah, I love that. I know writer's block. It happens to us all, and it's like instead of kind of like criticizing yourself or overjudging yourself, it's such a good reminder, like you mentioned, like to read a good book or just like to change environment even because sometimes it's like we are spiritual beings and sometimes we have like stuck energy and we just have to like go take a walk in the park and like to the birds or like feed a squirrel or something and that's like That's like going to help our creativity flow too. And it's going to inspire us to have even more creative ideas. So yeah, I feel like everybody has writer's block sometimes, and as long as like just try to be creative and try to like shift environments, that's gonna really help to kind of ease
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
I love the topic about like publishing because there's so many different ways of publishing. Some people talk about
Hmm.
self-publishing or versus going to a publishing company. How was your
Hmm.
experience, and what do you think is like the best as per your experience so far?
Hmm. Okay. Yeah. So this was a huge topic I thought about, for years, because there's traditional publishing, there's self-publishing, there's indie publishers, there's vanity publishers. Like there's just like so much out there, and it's hard to figure out. And so a lot of trial and error. I actually wrote a blog post on like the pros and cons of
Oh,
each on
that's
my
yeah,
website, but I won't get into all of that. But I actually tried the
fine.
traditional
Yeah.
path. I tried the traditional path first. And so right after I finished, I was inspired by Stephanie Meyer, who wrote Twilight, because she also had three boys and like wrote her book while they were sleeping, and then she like got a publishing deal and was like gone crazy. So I'm like, yeah, I could do that too. um so I queried agents, I went to writing conferences, I did that whole thing for about a year. And at the end of the day, the traditional path is very slow, and there's no guarantee that your book will get picked up. Or even if you do get an agent, like there's no promise that it'll get picked up by a publisher. And since mine was a first in a trilogy, that's also a hard sell. They want standalones for debut authors. They don't want like a series. And so I decided that I wanted to self publish so I could get my whole series out there. So even if I did get an agent for this first book, it could have not done well, and then my other books wouldn't have been published. And I wouldn't have been able to self publish the other books either because they have the rights. And so I ultimately decided to self publish this book because I had a whole series in mind and a prequel and just like a whole thing. And I wanted to get out there in the world. And it's been so nice having complete control over my book, like designing my own cover and like writing the story I want to write instead of being in the confines of like what's popular in the market. And but it is hard because your reach as a self-published author is only so far. It's as far as I can get. So there's definitely pros and cons with both paths, and I wouldn't say one is better than the other. It's just they're just different.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. And it's like based on what you're writing, and I guess like you mentioned the trilogy, it's like you have to kind of think ahead to be like, what's gonna benefit my whole like story and the whole journey of writing these books.
Yeah.
Did you have like also like marketing stuff that you had to kind of like figure out on your own? Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to figure out everything. Like there's these reels that pop up talking about indie authors, and they're like, well, we just got into this to write, but now we're a marketer and like all the things that we didn't want to do, but we have to do. And like, yeah, like an influencer and a marketer and publisher and a designer, and
It's high dimensional.
like you have to learn it though. Like if you want to get your book out there, you gotta figure it out. Yeah, I knew nothing and I had to figure it out.
And where do you think is the best place like to market? Like yourself.
So Instagram and TikTok are really popular with like book talk and bookstagram. And so I started with Instagram. That's just kind of where I felt comfortable. I wasn't ever really on TikTok a lot. So I started with Instagram and I've done really well on that. And then I slowly went into TikTok and Twitter, which is X now, and all the places. But I do best on Instagram and Bookstagram. I started with like a Bookstagram account. So just like sharing my love for books and gaining that audience before I started talking about my own writing and my books.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Yeah, it's like you're learning along the way. You're learning so many things. Like kind of how to manage your little baby project. Like you have to know how to market it, where to push it out. It's like very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what is your favorite thing about writing? Yeah.
My favorite thing about writing, it's probably the same thing of what I love about reading, just getting lost in another world. But it's really cool because it's your world with your made up characters in your head. And like I love writing in the young adult genre because it whisks me back to those days of like teenage angst and first love. And those things you never thought you'd experience again, but suddenly like I am experiencing them and I'm like in this like young adult's head and she's experiencing it. And it's really cool to like get out of your world and into someone else's world. And it can also be very healing. Like I talked about, like I put my own struggles in my main character. And I know a lot of writers like write about their trauma and they put that into their books and that is healing for them.
That's amazing. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
And what advice do you have for new writers who maybe are a little bit nervous to write their first book?
I say just jump in. Like it doesn't have to be good. Actually, it probably will be bad. The first draft is usually very bad. And the second, third, fourth, fifth drafts is where it becomes good. So you just like write down that scene or that character or whatever's stuck in your head and you just go for it. And like I talked about earlier, how like I'm a pantser. Like you don't have to plot out. You don't have to know all the scenes that you're gonna write. You just write what you know and it like will just come. And there is actually one book I recommend for like new writers is Save the Cat. I don't know if you've heard of that book. It's really good for like plotting a book as a non-plotter myself. So Save the Cat, that's a really good book for new writers. I use it in my editing a lot.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, that's amazing. You mentioned that it's a trilogy, so then there are new books coming out also. Have you started writing those books? Or are you trying to like, yeah?
Yes. So I actually wrote the first draft of the second book a year ago from today. And I just now started getting back into it. I like do a read through but it's very different because I changed the ending of the first book after I'd written the second one.
Oh wow.
So there's need to do. So right now I'm working on a rewrite of the second book. And I'm hoping to have that come out next spring.
That's so cool. And I love the idea of like when you're writing, it's not about like first impression because people sometimes don't get nervous for like the first impression. But when you're writing, it's so right. It's like the first write up is probably going to be like messy and not clear. There's going to be errors and grammatical mistakes. So yeah, it's so true. It's like don't judge yourself so hard, like for new writers. I think like once you have that trust in yourself, if you're able to do it, give yourself that time and don't judge yourself too soon because what we do, like all of us, we love to judge ourselves. It's like our inner critic, you know, we just go so hard in and it's like when we just give ourselves the faith and ability to just like be creative and just try new and continue that. I think it's really good. Like consistency is also kind of good because if we give ourselves kind of like the boundaries of consistency, we'll be able to move along and we hold ourselves accountable because sometimes we want to do the thing, but then when we don't have the accountability, it's like, oh, like we'll get lazy or like we'll forget. And yeah, it's really good to, like you mentioned also, like when we have the writer's block to like take a walk or like relax and
yeah, and there's this event coming up called National Novel Writing Month in November. And it's really good for writers and like trying to be consistent because you just like set a goal to like write every day. And like the challenge is to like write a book in a month. But it's just about setting that consistent day, like writing every day. And I think that helps for you to get the words on the paper and get it out. And and to not judge your first draft like books that are already published. Like I did that a lot. Like, gosh, this is so bad. Like I'm not gonna go anywhere. Like No, like all the published books out there had first terrible drafts.
That's normal and that's totally fine. What is your favorite thing about editing, and what is your least favorite thing about editing? The whole process.
My favorite thing about editing. Um, I like my favorite thing about editing. That's hard. Editing, I don't enjoy editing as much as writing the first draft and getting the story out there. Um, I would say my favorite thing is making it sound better. Like, because my first draft, has lots of like holes, and finding those holes and just making it into a story. Like, from like your rough draft and turning it into like an actual novel is a really cool experience. But yeah, least favorite is like the actual editing part. And like just looking at those like words in a sentence and trying to be like, how can I say that sentence better? Like 5,000 times.
Yeah, it's like it feels so nice. Like once you edit a few times, like you feel something like like a smooth kind of flowing vibe, and it feels so cool to feel like, oh wow, like this is like the finishing product, and it's starting.
Yeah.
Everything starts to like make sense. Like I love that feeling. It's like starting to make sense.
I just know that for new writers and hopeful authors out there, it can be really scary and overwhelming. But like, if I can do it, you can do it. Like,
That's so
you
sweet.
just start small.
Yeah, that's so sweet.
You
And
just
where
do
can
it.
just do it? I love that. Yeah. And where can people
Hmm.
get your book and also connect with you and see your content?
Yeah, so my Instagram and TikTok is Sam Christopher Writes. And so that's kind of my name, and my website is samchristopherwrites.com. That's how you can connect with me. But my book, The Spark Within, is on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, anywhere you can get books, really. It's also on Kindle Unlimited if people have that. So yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. So exciting. Congratulations. And I'm looking forward to you can come back here when you have your second book and we'll see how that is. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast and
Hey,
sharing your story and your journey as a writer and author.
thank you for inviting me. It was really nice to get to know you and be on here and talk about my book.
Awesome. Thank you so much.